The grade, I need to do the regrading for homework 1, and I will try to get that done today. Probably not, though. Probably will be Tuesday. All right, so let's hit it. So we're going to start off with reference angles. Go ahead and copy down on a new page. I want you to copy this down. This is the definition of a reference angle. Go ahead and copy that down. And then glue down the 2 cutouts that look like this. So copy down the title, which is what is a reference angle. And then you should have these 2 cutouts. Go ahead and glue them down, and then we're going to talk about it together. So a reference angle is the shortest angle made with the x-axis. Is that one bad, Jaden? Yeah. Throw it away, please.
What's the title of the
Properties of trig functions. Got it? Okay. So one of the things we're going to talk about in 6.3 is reference angles on the quiz next Friday. You have 1 or 2 questions where you have to tell me the reference angle. And the biggest mistake, or the only mistake that students make, is confusing it with the y-axis. So again, we want the smallest angle made with the x-axis. That's the key. It's the smallest angle you can make with the x-axis. All right, so let's look at these 2 different cutouts, and I'm going to explain them both. I like them both. The one gives you a visual of what it looks like, and the second one gives you the equation on how to find it. So if you have an angle in quadrant 1, whatever your angle is the same as your reference angle. All right, so in quadrant 1, the angle is your reference angle. When you move to quadrant 2, though, so for example, if this was 160 degrees, if this angle here is 160 degrees, your reference angle would be this. So how do you think we're going to find that angle? Subtract it by 180. So if you look over here on this formula, it tells you that to find your reference angle in quadrant 2 is 180 minus the angle. Now, if that angle is in radians, you might want to also include that if it's in radians, that's pi minus the angle. Because remember, 180 in terms of radians is pi. Okay. So going back to this example, if it was a 160 degree angle, my reference angle would just be a 20 degree. So in this example, the reference angle would be a 20 degree angle. That's the shortest angle with the x-axis, would be a 20 degree angle. When you move to quadrant 3, so to get to the x-axis, we have to rotate up. See, this would be the difference. That's why my formula flipped. Instead of 180 minus the angle, if you're in quadrant 3, it's the angle minus 180. So again, in radians, that would be the angle minus pi. So going back to this example, if this was 260 degrees, then you would take 260 minus 180, and that would give you an 80 degree reference angle. And then lastly, in quadrant 4, when you have an angle, to find your reference angle, that would just be this piece. So you would take 360 minus the angle, which in radians, what is 360 in radians? 2 pi. 2 pi minus the angle. Okay, so we're going to do some practice now. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cover up and give you the examples that we're going to work through together. They're all also written on that backboard too. So we're going to practice finding the reference angle for 6 examples. So let me go ahead. I got to color this off. Okay, so let's go ahead and work through it together. So we're going to find the reference angle for 75 degrees, 190 degrees, 250 degrees, 2 pi over 5, 310 degrees, and 10 pi over 3. So these are the 6 angles that we're going to find the reference angles for. So the first thing we need to do is identify what quadrant. Here you go, Eric. Identify what quadrant we're in. And then based on what quadrant, we're going to figure out which one of these formulas we're going to use. Yeah, we're going to find the quadrant we're in first. So you're going to glue down these two now. Okay. And then we'll put these to the side. Okay. So 75 degrees. Show me with your finger what quadrant are we in. All right. So if we look at our handout, it says that if you have an angle in quadrant 1, we don't have to do anything. Your reference angle is the same as your angle. Any angle in quadrant 1, the reference and the angle are the same. So my reference angle is going to be the same as 75 degrees. Show me with your fingers what quadrant are we in for number 2. 190. So, sorry, quadrant 3. So in quadrant 3, it says if you have an angle that's between 180 and 270, this is our formula. We're going to take the angle that we have and subtract 180. So to find my reference angle, it would be 190 minus 180, which is what? 10 degrees. So you have a 10-degree reference angle. So what you see written in red, that's your reference angles. Show me with your finger for number 3, what quadrant are we in? 250 degrees. Still 3. So you're going to take 250 minus 180. Again, no calculator. What's 250 minus 180? 70. Who else has 70? So that would be your reference angle. All right, now we're moving to radians, which is a little trickier. 2 pi over 5. Show me with your finger. Which quadrant are we in? I only had one person with the right answer. I want you all to think about it. It's not that. So again, thinking about if you do it the way, there's a couple ways you can look at this, but what's half of your denominator? So it's 2 between 0 and 2.5. So that would be in quadrant 1. So the reference angle is the same. 2 pi over 5. Show me with your finger what quadrant are we in for 310 degrees. 4. So let's look at our formula. It says if you're in quadrant 4, you take 360 minus the angle. So you're going to take 360 minus 310. And what's 360 minus 310? 50 degrees. So again, these are all of my reference angles that you see written in red. All right, back to radians. This is the ones that make me a little nervous here. What quadrant are we in? Wait, I gotta figure out myself. Okay, I got it. What are you counting by? What's half of your denominator? 1.5. So go ahead and count around by using that 1.5. We got a quiz a week from today, so I'm a little nervous. At this point, we should be spitting out these quadrants a little quicker. A little quicker. It is 3. So if I subtract from this 2 pi, that's another way to look at that. Subtracting 2 pi, that would be 6 pi over 4. Then that gives me 4 pi over 3. That's a coterminal angle. So an angle that's coterminal. Why did I put a 4? I don't know. Let me fix that. 6 pi over 3 is the same as 2 pi. So what's 10 minus 6? 4. So 4 pi over 3 and 10 pi over 3 are the same angle. That's a coterminal angle. So we're in quadrant 3. So when you're in quadrant 3, so again, if you're doing it using the trick 0, 1.5, 3, 4.5, we're in quadrant 3 somewhere. And what does it tell us to do when you're in quadrant 3? What does the formula say? Angle minus 180. So I need to take my angle, which I'm going to use that 4 pi over 3, and subtract from that pi. Because 180 and pi, that's the same thing. We need a common denominator, so I'm going to multiply this by 3. So that gives me 4 pi over 3 minus 3 pi over 3. So that means my reference angle is pi over 3. Right, so remember that 1 full revolution is 360 degrees, right? What is 360 in terms of radians? 2 pi. Yes, you need a common denominator whenever you're adding or subtracting fractions. Okay, so now take a minute and copy down these 5. This is what Miss K worked with you on for the last couple of days. Take out your unit circle. I want you to answer these 5 questions. What's the sine of 240? What's the cosine of pi? Go ahead and answer these 4 questions. So is cosine, is sine the x or y value? Which?
Y.
The y, yep. And cosine is what? X. How do you find tangent? Is it x divided by y or y divided by x? Y divided by x. So quickly taking out your unit circle, let's answer these 5 questions. When you divide two numbers that are the same, you get 1 or -1. So what is it gonna be? Positive?
No, you gotta break it over dividing your life.
Oh, yes, it's different. This is one that's before we have a
You've already been told the numbers that are 45.
Let's go.
One or negative.
sine and a y.
The ones that have the same numbers are always equal. -1 or 1, because you're just dividing by the same number.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter what you get.
So I got it.
Yes, you're right.
All right, what did we get for A? What's the sine of 240 degrees? -1/2 or -√3/2? All right, good. What about the cosine of pi? -1? Who got -1? All right, the tangent of 5 pi over 4. So anytime it's one of the over 4s, and we're asking for tangent, it's either 1 or -1. Now this time we're dividing two numbers that are positive, so it would be a +1. Two numbers that are negative, thank you, Marquand. And when you divide two negatives, it's positive. All right, 3 pi over 4. Sine, is that positive or negative? Is it positive √2/2 or negative √2/2? Positive. Who says positive? Who says negative? All right, good. And then the cosine of 315. Cosine would be positive or negative? Positive. All right, who had at least 4 right? All right, good. Good job. All right, now we're going to move on to the next piece. Go ahead and copy these down. I got you. Glue these down. It will be. So the next two, go ahead and glue down. And one of them that's in black and white, that's really not helpful, but I'll have you glue it down and then I'll tell you, take out a highlighter and I'll have you highlight them because mine, of course, is in color, but yours is in black and white. So in this quadrant, everything is positive, right? So if you have a highlighter, you might want to highlight the ones that are positive. Highlight all three. All, that's what the A stands for. Everything is positive. But over here, only sign is positive. So only highlight sign for what's positive. You need a highlighter? I got yellow. There you go. So now what we're going to do, we're going to practice, and it's going to be naming the quadrant that we're in. I'm going to give you 2 clues, and you have to figure out what quadrant we're in based on the 2 clues. Yes?
You said highlight the positive one?
I would on your, and then just make a note that you know that that's what's positive. And remember, if sign is positive, so is the sister. And who's the sister to sign? Cosecant. So sine and cosecant are positive in quadrant 2. In quadrant 3 is tangent and the sister. Who's the sister to tangent? Cotangent. Tangent and cotangent are positive in quadrant 3. Cosine and secant are positive. They only list one of the original OGs, which is sine, cosine, tangent. But now we've introduced their sisters. So just remember, if one is positive, so is the sister. Okay? So after you have that copied down, highlighted, I'm going to give you 4 examples that I want you to copy down. You do not need to put space in between. So you're going to just copy it down, 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're just going to find the number. So you're going to glue them both down. All right, so take a minute and copy. These are 4 different questions. And this is name the quadrant. This is a game. Name the quadrant. So go ahead and copy that down and then we'll talk about it together. Yeah, come straight back. You want right here? let's talk about it together. So for question A, it says sign is less than 0. If a number is less than 0, does that mean that it's positive or negative? Negative. So that means that we need a quadrant where sign is negative because it's less than 0. Cosine is greater than 0, which means it's what? Positive or negative? Positive. So don't say it out loud. Look at your diagram and see if you can figure out what quadrant has a positive cosine and a negative sign. Show me with your fingers, what quadrant do you think we're in? I agree. We're in quadrant 4. Good job. That's our quadrant. So sign is negative here and here. So sign is negative here or here. So based on the first clue, we would either be in 3 or 4. But the second clue is that cosine is positive, which means we have to be in 4. All right, let's look at question B. It says tangent is greater than 0, which means it's positive. Now, who is the sister to secant? Who's the sister to secant? Cosine. And cosine is also positive. So in what? I'm going to write that because remember that if secant is positive, so is cosine. I'm going to go ahead and just add that because they roll together. So show me with your fingers what quadrant has a positive tangent and a positive cosine. It's quadrant 1. Good job. All right, question C. Again, secant is the same as cosine. So cosine is less than 0. And if it's less than 0, that means that it's negative. So we got a negative cosine, a negative secant. But we have a positive sine. Sine is positive. So which quadrant has a positive sine and a negative cosine? Okay, so again, what I like to do with the first clue, I cross out or I circle which ones I'm in. So if I have a negative cosine, remember cosine is negative here or here. So I'm down to a 50-50 chance. But the second clue was that sine is positive. That's how I know that I have to be in quadrant 2. So that would be my answer. Go ahead and do the last one. Negative tangent, positive sine. Tangent is negative, because remember, if cotangent is negative, that means tangent is also negative. And cosecant is the sister to sine. So this is saying tangent is less than 0. Sine is greater than 0. So what quadrant has a negative tangent and a positive sine? We are still in 2. Okay, I'm actually going to end there because I really don't have time to do that last example that I did. But before you pack up, I just need for you to copy down this example so that Tuesday we already have it and we could just hit it. Go ahead, copy down this example so that it's in your notes. And we will go through it together on Tuesday.